Alright, hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the Grow Garden series. So this episode today is going to be somewhat shorter than the other ones, and it's just going to go over one thing, which is adding variability to our plant sizes and our crop sizes. So what I mean by that is, if we play the game right now, you notice that all of our crops and plants, as well as their fruits, are all the same size, as you can see. And obviously in Grow Garden, plants have different varied sizes in the game. So that's what we're going to be focused on doing today. So the first thing we're going to do is open our SeedActivator. Well, actually before that, I want to note that I updated the assets module, which is going to be in the description or in the Discord server. And it's just updated so, and for the future, when we add in like things like harvesting crops and things like that for it to go in your backpack. And I also updated the server and client model as well. So yeah, please get the updated version. And before we start scripting the different size scaling, there's one thing I want to note, right? So let's open our plants and go to like a cacao plant and open the client model. You'll see that this is the normal size, or the scaling of it right now. However, if you were to scale this up like so, you'll notice that the scale right here changes. So knowing that, we can actually script it to where this scale, which in general is something like this, you can say model scale to, like so, and you can scale it based on the original scale. But another thing we want to account for is if we plant it right here, right, and we scale it up a little bit, the primary part position will be different from when we scaled it up to when it's smaller, like this. Because if you scale the whole model up, everything, including the size and the position of each part, will be changed. So yeah, knowing that, we need to account for that in our script. So first off, let's open up our SeedActivator right here. And we can actually account for that in here. So first off, we can, instead of saying local plant model, we can call this local mock plant model is equal to the server model, and we want to clone it for now. The reason we're doing that is we want to get the bounding box of the model. And if you recall, both of these models are the same size. And then right now, after this, we can make a comment, say getting final plant scaling when the plant is fully grown. And we can say local plant size equals seedService.getRandomPlantSize. And let's like input in two arguments. We can say tool.name, which in this case is our plant seed, as well as just an open table for any other configurations we want. And since we made the function here, or called it, we also need to start scripting it in our seed service. So in our seed service, we can create two functions. For now, we can say function service dot get random plant size, and our name, which in this case, remember, we have our tool name and just any extra data we want in the future. And we can say return random.new and next number. We can return like a number 1 to 3. So this is going to be like our scaling for now, because remember the scale of this model right here is 1. So we want to randomize it between 1 and 3, like so. In the future, if you want, you can edit these values, but for now, we're just going to randomize it like so. And also, if we have a random plant size, but if you note, all of these client models also have fruits in them, which we may also want to randomize their size in the future. So we can have this fruit be larger than the others, like so. So we can make a function called getRandomFruitSize. Obviously name, string, extra data, any, like so. And we can say, okay, if the name of the seed, or the name we pass in is carrot seed, then we just want to return 1. Because the carrot seed can only be harvested once, and it's only a single plant or a fruit. So the scale of that fruit isn't going to be relied on this fruit size, but rather the plant size overall. Because in that case, if it's a carrot, if random plant size and the random fruit size are the same, if that makes any sense. However, since all the fruits have more, or all the plants have more than one fruit, we can just say return random.new next number 1,3 to randomize the scaling of a single fruit, as you can see, between 1 and 3. And now if we head back to our seed activator, this function should work. So, the reason we cloned our server model is because we want to actually make a mock scale model of it. So we can say mock scale, mock plant model, scale 2, and our plant size. And then now we want to get the bounding box. Or not the bounding box. We want to get the primary part size, because remember, if you recall, I said the size and everything else changes. So we'll get the mock plant model and we'll replace it with plant model right here to get the updated size of the offset of the newly scaled plant based on the plant size. And now that should be good. And right here in PlantSeed, we also want to just add a new argument called plantSize, or input the new argument in. And since we cloned it right here, we don't want Roblox just to be taking up memory and things like that. So always remember to destroy your mock plant model after you're done. Like so. And this code should be scaled or updated based on the plant size that we have now. Because we're accounting for the Y size in the updated scale, instead of just relying on 1 as our default scale. And now if we go back to our plant seed, since we added in the new plant size argument that we passed in, we also need to add it right here. So we can say PlantScaling, which we know it's going to be a number. And then let's see, down here, we also want to add in a new argument when we save the plot data, so we know what the scale of the plant is. So we can say SizeScaling is equal to service.getRandomFruitSize, or no, is equal to our plant scaling, my fault, or 1. But right here, we can get our random fruit size. So let's expand upon this. We can say right here, let's make it easier to read. And we can add a comma, and we can say SizeScaling of the fruit, not the plant, but of a singular fruit, is equal to service.getRandomFruitSize, like so. And we obviously want to input our seed name and just any extra data we want, like so. So I want to note again that the difference between SizeScaling, or wait, let me change this, my fault, to plant size. So the difference between this SizeScaling and this plant size is that the plant size accounts for the scale of the entire model. And what I mean by that is, if you move this scaling right here, if you scale it all the way up, like so. But the fruit size, or the SizeScaling in the fruit size, in the fruit, corresponds to just a single fruit. So if you scale this up, it'll just account for that scaling. So that should work now. And let's see what else. Right. So since we added in the new SizeScaling in here, as well as the plant size in here, we also want to update that for the variables or the values that we replicate over to the client, because we want the client to also see what our scalings are. So we can add a number value in here called plant size, as well as add the number value in here, which is SizeScaling, like so. And we also want to just update the values in our PlotService. So if we go to PlotService, right here, and we want to find where we clone the actual model. And we cloned it, so we can add our scaling right here. We can say scaling based on PlantScaling save, which in this case is the plant size right here. So you can say plant size, just so we know. And we can say ServerModel scale 2, and then we can say data.plantSize, which should correspond with this right here. And let's see, right here we also want to update the value, so we can say plantSize.value equals data.plantSize. And when we do the fruits, we can say FruitConfig.size SizeScaling.value equals fruit data.SizeScaling, like so. And let's see, that should be good now. So what we did was that we scaled the server model to the actual plant size that we saved in, which is a scale from 1 to 3. We also set the value here so the client and the server can both view what the values are. But now we also want to replicate it on the client. So we can go over here to CropReplicator and we can do so. So let's exit out of these or collapse these things right here. And we're going to focus on this part right here, where we actually clone the model for it. So right here, we can say client model scale to, because if you recall, if we scale it on the server right here, we also want to scale it on the client as well. So we can say child.serverConfiguration.plantSize.value, like so. And that should be good. And let's see. So we also want to account for the scaling of the fruits that we have. So if we go down here where we handle our harvesting visual right here, we can also make another sort of thread that handles in our size scaling. So we can say handling size scaling for fruits. We can say test.spawn, and let's go over here and just put our seed data up here so we can access it. And we can say if seed data, then local fruits folder is equal to serverconfig.fruits. And we can say if not seed data .multiharvest.value, then return end. So the reason we say this, because if you recall, things like carrots, things like that, don't have a multi-harvest because they get destroyed when you harvest them. And the scaling for these type of plants are reliant on the plant scaling, which you're already accounted for right here. So we can ignore any seed that doesn't have multi-harvest set to true. Then we can say for underscore comma v and fruits folder get children do. We can scale the fruits accordingly right here. And we can say local found model equals client model find first child fruits underscore to string v.name. Because if you remember, the fruits folder right here are fruits from 1, 2, 3, and 4, which they can correspond to these fruits right here, which is why we named it like that. And we can say local size scaling equals v find first child size scaling, because they all have a separate size scaling, which if you refer to this folder right here, you can see can harvest, last harvest, size scaling right here. So they all have a different size. And we can say if found model and size scaling, then we can say found model scale to, and the found model is just the model of the fruit. Scale to size scaling dot value, and we can also detect when the scaling is changed. Connect function. And we can say we can update the scaling like so. And there we go. That should be good. So now if we play the game, the scaling should be randomized between different plants. And of course, this doesn't work right here is because we don't have a plant size data saved previously because we just added that in. So we can just go ahead and wipe our data right here. Just change this to 6. And let's play the game. And you note that we have nothing planted yet. Let's give ourselves some seeds. And go over here to our garden and let's say let's plant some carrots. Let's see what happens. Right here. Well, once again, Roblox case sensitivity. We always want to just make sure they're all uppercase and things like that. And you'll notice that our carrot is abnormally larger. And let's go ahead and just plant some seeds right here and see how the size varies. And you see that this carrot right here is much larger than this one right here. Let's go ahead and plant some more. We can plant some tomatoes. We can plant some blueberries right here. And our cacao plants. And if you're not sure what the scales are, you can open up your plant seeds right here and just look at the scaling. the configuration and go to plant size, you see that this is around 2.83, but another blueberry can be like 2.76, which you can see right here. Or there's just an extremely small blueberry right here, which is probably around like 1 or so, yeah. And similarly, you can see that the fruit scaling for all of these are also randomized. So let's go to this one right here and look at the fruit scaling. You can see this one's around 1.6 or 1.8. And this one's around 2, which you can see that's abnormally larger than the rest. And this one is around 1.321. And if you go over here to your client and go to this blueberry, you can see that the scalings are actually replicated. Like so. And yeah, so the reason these tomatoes haven't grown out yet is because the growth time for them is really small. So you look over here and go to module seed data, tomato seed, and your growth time, you see that's like 2 minutes long. So another thing I want to note for y'all is, once again, how to actually add in new plants. So first off, I already gave all of y'all the plants things in here, but I want y'all to remember that for seed data in here, whenever you add in a new seed, it won't appear in the market or the seed store until you input them in the seed order thing like this, like so. And remember to always change your seed prefix to the name of the seed, like tomato right here, and your display name to tomato seed. And let's see what else I want to note. And yep, same thing over here, carrot and carrot corresponding. And aside from that, you also want to note that you want your tools to be in here as well. And let's see, that should be all of the places. Yep. And once again, let's play the game and I'll show you how that the offline growing actually works. So if you teleport over here, you notice that all of your cacao plants are starting to grow and the tomatoes are almost done growing. So let's stop the game for a little bit more and just go over the code one more time and what we did today just for randomizing the size variability of the seeds and the fruits that are grown. So in our seed service, we created 2 new functions, one for randomizing the plant size and one for randomizing the fruit size. So once again, the fruits are inside of the plant. So we can say a plant can have 3 fruits or a plant can have 4 fruits. But if it's carrot, it only has 1 fruit, which in this case is the carrot or the plant. And in here, right over here, you'll notice that we added size scaling to each of the fruits so that we know what the random fruit size is. And when we save our new plant, you'll notice that we added a plant size thing right here. And if you go over here to our PlotService and open the folders, you notice that we also added the values in, so we can replicate them. In our PlotService, you scroll down, we scaled it accordingly on the server, as well as setting our values, our new values here. And on the client, we did the same, where we scaled our client model, like so, as well as scaling the fruits and detecting when they're being changed right here. And that should pretty much be it. So now if we play the game, we should see that our tomatoes are nearly fully grown. Let's see what the growth percentage for these are. So go over here to our plant. Let's see. It's at around 100 now. Okay, that's good. Let's see how long it takes for these plants to actually have fruits. Harvest interval. Okay, so it takes around 5 minutes for these plants to have fruits. So if we just sort of want to change that, we can say, okay, go over here to our modules and our tomato seed. We can just change this to around maybe 10 seconds. So if we play the game, go over here, you notice that the fruits have been sprouted, like so. And obviously when you harvest the fruit, which I'm going to show you how to do in the next video, when you harvest it, the harvest time, the last harvest time, is going to be reset. And when you harvest it and you wait 10 seconds, the fruit should reappear. But right now we have no functionality for that yet. So yep, once again, showcasing the system. All of these fruits are randomized, as well as our cacao sort of plants right here. This one's really small and these ones are huge. And the fruits are also randomized too. So yeah, thank you for watching, and the next episode is going to focus on harvesting seeds. So yeah, please join my Discord server if y'all have any questions, and peace.